Thursday, August 22nd, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Australia, part 2.
It's not French.
Let's do this. I'm feeling a lot more energy now that we've been back from Australia for a while.
I'm feeling pretty good energy today because when I biked to work this morning in New York, the things we talk about biking in New York,
Yep.
it was gonna rain, and it only rained a block away from the office, and then I got in the office.
So
I barely got rained on, and then it was raining all day until I was leaving work. The sun came out. So
I know. I went to work, right?
Take that rain.
I was like, I should bike. Look how nice it is outside. But I had some other stuff I had to take care of, so I didn't want my bike at the office because I had to come back home anyway. So I didn't bike. And then I got to the office, and because of the timing, it would have rained on me had I biked at the time I would have left.
So on top of that, I'm waiting for my new shower head to come because my previous one broke.
You didn't buy a water pick, did you?
I bought the top-rated one on Amazon.
Okay. But was it a water pick? I'm really not feeling the water picks
Let me
lately.
see what it is.
Water picks are kind
It's
of
basically the same kind of thing we've always gotten.
Oh,
where
I know.
It's just, it's a plastic shower head with you twist it in these modes.
But so what I did a lot of research into shower heads because I replaced my water pick with a different brand, a not as commonly known brand.
It's a Delta 75700 WH7 spray head.
I know that one because that one was actually one of the ones I looked at because it is one of the top-rated Amazon ones.
It has 4.5 stars in Amazon after 491 reviews. That's a lot.
I looked at that one. I ended up getting this dual head one, but not.
I thought about getting one of those. They were way more money.
Yeah, so I got a dual head one that was only $60.
That's way more money. This one is only costing me. I forget. It doesn't have the price right now.
Yeah, you're going to feel really silly if you use my shower and realize
26.
how absolutely fantastic my shower head is.
I want to talk about not how fantastic good shower heads are, but how shitty. I reverted to the shower head that came with my apartment.
You want to get me started? I got something to say about that.
Because it's broken, I reverted to the shower head that came with my apartment. Low flow does not even begin. I would have more coming down on me if I went outside in a drizzle. It's like there's two lasers of water that are like sort of going, eh. It's like a baby is peeing on me, and that's it. That's it.
Simultaneously,
how can I clean myself with that?
If anyone out there, if you take the sort of legal flow limiter out of your shower head, you're kind of a dick because I don't think you understand how much fucking water you waste if you take that out. But
yeah, I used to take it out to increase the flow, but then I realized, if you have a better shower head, you can leave it in and still get the flow.
Exactly. If you take it, well, remember,
then you won't waste water.
When we moved to Beacon, we were like, hey, let's take it out. And we took it out, and then we're like, oh, one shower empties the hot water heater. That's stupid. And we put the flow limiter back in. Because we were used to RIT, where the water pressure was just low, and that's when you're supposed to take it out, if the water pressure is low. If it's high, like in New York, imagine just turning on the faucet, just letting it go. Just bam, open faucet. Blah. But what the fuck is up with anyone who has lived in a place for more than a month and has not replaced the default shower head with one that is on some sort of rope or chain mechanism?
Maybe they live in some sort of luxury place that has an awesome shower head. Or maybe they have one of those high-end showers that just blast you from all sides and has like electronic settings.
Yeah, but seriously, how do you wash your asshole effectively if you don't have the kind you can pick up and hold down by your asshole?
Maybe they just bend over and show their asshole to the sky.
I mean, I understand. I think it's a health-related thing in hotels because people might put it in places they shouldn't put it. So I'm kind of okay with that. Though I know every country I travel to that isn't the U.S., it has the same kind of shower head I have.
Rim, think about this. Until those things weren't fucking invented until
when? When? What year?
They didn't have those.
They had those my entire life.
Right, but I'm talking like in the 50s, you think they had those?
Probably.
I don't know. You ever see one in an old movie?
How often do you see the inside of a shower in an old movie?
Psycho.
Yeah, I was going to say, name another movie.
Psycho didn't have one.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you.
But I guess I just don't get humans who live in a place where they don't get a real shower head. It's like, dude, $20.
It is $20.
$20 for one that is 1,000 times better than what you've got.
7 modes.
Mine only has 3 modes and 2 heads. Now, if I turn on 2 heads at the same time, that's stupid. That's gonna waste so much water.
That is dumb.
But the way mine's set up, right? I have a head that's fixed up there that actually has a really good sort of angle mechanism, so I can get it like angled perfectly. And then I have the one I hold. I can switch between them. The way it's set up, the angle one that's fixed uses way little water, but it gives me this nice spray. So it's keeping me warm. It's doing the basic washing. But then I take the stick one and switch to that, and it's basically super powerful asshole cleaner.
Sure.
But the key is it's super powerful, so it wastes water, but I only use it for like a minute in my entire shower. And the rest of the time I'm standing there with the normal one using way little water and not getting cold because I'm like soaping up my stuff. But yeah,
right.
Shower heads. We should do a whole show on shower heads.
Okay, so yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That's a pretty good show idea.
We've already done it, though.
Have we?
We just did it right now.
No, I got a lot more to say that I'm holding back.
Low flow, Jerry. Okay, so I got some news here. It's just a tiny gaming news, right? But there's the Elder Scrolls Online has been an MMO people are looking forward to, right?
Yep.
Maybe because, MMOs are waning, so and not too often a big one comes along. So, of course, one based on the Skyrims and the Oblivions and the Morrowinds is going to be pretty hot, right?
Yep.
So they decided to charge $15 a month, which is a lot, right? But people are crazy for this fucking thing, so they'll pay it.
Well, I would pay $15 a month for Counter-Strike.
They know that this thing is going free to play eventually, so they're clearly going to milk everyone for what they're worth and then go free to play, right?
Yep.
But here's the real catch. There's
a catch.
They're going to put in the free to play buy stuff store to buy, in-game shit at the same time that it's still $15 a month. So you pay $15 a month and you pay to win. And then eventually, when it's free to play, it'll just be pay to win.
All right,
without the monthly fee.
Listen, assholes.
You're paying $15 a month to get nothing, and then you buy a sword in the store with real money again.
I understand why the industry is going in this direction, but I also hate it. I don't know what to do.
You won't catch me playing this.
Even Counter-Strike, right? My pure game. They added drops, and they added you can get an MP5 that's orange or a knife that looks different.
NS2, everybody.
But you know what they added? You know what 2 of the items are? The silenced M4.
Wait, you have to pay for that?
Well, everyone got it for free, but it's an item.
Okay.
An optional item.
So there are people who won't have it.
I don't know if anyone will not have it. Like, if I buy the game today, I wonder if I get it or not. And the silenced USP.
Does everyone have that?
Everyone who's currently playing.
Well, I mean, you don't just have it. You have to buy it with in-game Counter-Strike dollars, right?
Well, you get it for free, I guess, because it was like the first item. Like,
it's like you have it available to purchase. Like I have Kevlar available to purchase, but I don't.
No, I haven't tried it yet because I've been too busy since PAX. But I think you have to equip it outside of the game instead of your regular M4.
Oh, fuck that bullshit.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I have not played Counter-Strike since they announced their crate bullshit.
I mean, it's one thing if I can press B and then choose between the two, and one costs more or something.
Well, this is why I'm worried, because when Counter-Strike...
What if one round I want one and one round I want the other?
When Counter-Strike Go came out, it was great, and I had literally one complaint. And that one complaint was, how come my M4 and USP don't have silencers? And then when those were added through the Steam bullshit item bullshit, that's bullshit.
That's right. NS2.
Yeah, but I like NS2. I like Counter-Strike more. That's my game.
Well, that's a problem.
And I have to keep a close eye on this, because if this gets out of hand, one, I'm just going to have to sit down and edit my server such that it's the way I want it to be.
At least Dota only has, to its credit, only has
and only play there
shit.
And make using these items a bannable offense. But more importantly, might just have to go back to 1.6.
1.6.
At least 1.6
The game
exists.
that never dies. 1.6 is kind of awesome in that, like, people don't play Quake 1 really, but you can go back and play 1.6, which is, that's
I think it's partly because 1.6 was one of those games that still kind of worked on the internet.
Yep.
I mean, Quake 1, you got to know IP addresses.
Yeah.
Like, what's the IP address of this server you want to connect to?
Just to wrap
play?
up this gaming news, I do want to say I'm thinking about trying the new EverQuest, only because it seems to be a combo MMO Minecraft, and just the idea of that seems cool. So I might go for the free trial on that.
I'm going to wait. until you bite that bullet.
It's
and
a
spend
free
the time.
trial. It's going to take me like an hour to figure out if it's worthwhile
Yeah,
or not.
but I
and
mean, I
most of that
spent-
hour will be spent downloading.
I spent money on Leviathan warships because no one seemed to know if it was bullshit or not.
Glad I did not spend money on that.
Yep. That's a show we keep forgetting to do. We got to review Mario Tennis and all those 3DS games the way we want games reviewed.
Mario Tennis.
Because they're not, no one
Do
reviews
you have
games.
any news over there?
So I got it, it's Thursday. It's the lounge.
No, it's your
We
mom.
can talk about whatever we want. So one, we live in New York, if you can't tell
No.
from listening to Geeknights. And we have a big mayoral election coming up. So
Yeah, we can actually vote in an election that matters, where the votes are counted mostly honestly.
and the votes are close.
And it's not,
And because the Republicans just don't matter here, because they don't, the primaries are all that matter. So as a result, it's not like I have to choose between a Gennaro right-of-center Democrat and an ultra-right-wing or ultra-religious Republican. I get to choose between 2 or 3 Democrats, all of whom have slightly nuanced positions on things. So it actually kind of matters. So a lot of our listeners do live in New York, and if you're not paying attention to the local elections where you live, that's why your shit sucks.
that shit matters a lot.
A lot more to your day-to-day life than the presidential election.
My current city council person, Valoni, who is good and bad, right? He's responsible for the gentrification of my neighborhood, but also other things, which not so good. But anyway, he is trying to become the Queens borough president. So there's all these people like trying to run to like take his spot if he wins or whatever. So that kind of matters for me, at least.
Yeah. But pay attention because Bloomberg is on his way out, and there's been the mayor's office of New York has been kind of funny lately because
I
of
should
this
just run
whole
for mayor.
racist stop and frisk thing. And basically, the New York mayor's office has been having hissy fits on Twitter. Like the city council basically shut down their racist stop and search policy, where they'd go to neighborhoods and stop black people and see if they had guns. And they say that, yeah, we found a bunch of guns. We're stopping crime, even though the
You know what's
majority
gonna be
of
awesome?
the citations
Is
were
it
not
when
gun
the
citations.
statistics show crime going down after stop and frisk,
Yep.
right?
But the city council was like, all right, we passed some laws. You can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And the mayor was like, veto. And the city council was like, yeah, override your veto.
That's how democracy works.
Yes.
It works only in this tiny area.
But listen, this is New York. Do you know how many people live here and yet still are my individual piddly little vote actually statistically significant?
Yep, because
So,
not everyone votes.
What about all of you who live in, like, I don't know, Gary, Indiana? How many people vote?
There's not, in Gary, Indiana, I read a story.
Actually, there's been a bunch of stories about Gary,
it's so
Indiana.
poor,
lately.
they
Yes.
sold a bunch of houses for really
Yep.
$1. Just $1.
$1.
Ice cold, keep piece of shit house, $1.
Yeah, those houses were only available to people who lived there already in the area.
I would have bought all 12 for $12.
Make a minimum income of like $35,000 a year, and they have to live in the house for 5 years or they lose it.
Not doing it.
Yeah, no one's doing it. But Gary's been in the news a lot for a lot of reasons. But if you live in a place like that, how many people do you think vote for, like, the comptroller? Like, how many people do you think vote in that? They go to the place they vote, they look at a list of names of people who want to be the comptroller, and they pick one.
Your vote matters a fuck ton.
So I got one other cool thing because it's Thursday. Well, not really cool. Kind of sad, but also cool. So the Nuremberg trials.
What? You God winning this show? It's not even half over?
You know, the trials where
What does this have anything to do with August 22nd, 2013?
the victors of the Second World War took all the Nazis and tried them for crimes against humanity and executed a whole bunch of them.
On August 22nd?
No, it's not the anniversary.
So
of that
how
or
is this
anything.
how is this relevant to anything in any way? Why bring this up randomly?
Because there is something that you all might not know about the Nuremberg trials.
Right, but how is it relevant to today or now?
It's not. It's just
You're
Thursday.
just bringing random.
I'm bringing up
Just
a cool
the
thing.
random history fact up from Rim.
Well,
with
because
no relevancy.
I kind of ran through the course of my Civil War interest lately, and I got back into World War II.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh.
here is the cool thing you did not know about the Nuremberg trials. They were basically the first time in history that modern simultaneous translation was used anywhere.
Okay.
This was the first time IBM set up all these systems, the UN, all these
Yeah,
places.
they took all the ones they used to count the dead Jews with, and they reprogrammed them.
Okay. But the idea, like we think, a big court trial or a big, anytime there's a thing going on, United Nations, everyone's got those earpieces in and there's simultaneous translation and things like that. That did not exist until the Nuremberg trials. That had never been done before. And it caused nervous breakdowns in the people doing the translation because no one had ever been trained to do that before. There was no school of, here is how to listen to someone speaking in German and talk English at someone else back and forth. Mm-hmm. That shit's actually really hard to do.
No.
And the whole field of study and the profession of simultaneous translation, like we do today, basically began with the Nuremberg trials. Okay. And I thought that was a cool, interesting history fact.
Random history fact from Rim. That's your new segment, Rim.
You know what?
Completely random, unrelevant, unrelated to anything history fact.
That hereby is what I'm going to do on every lounge show from now on. The random history fact, the history minute.
It's nothing to do with anything.
Rim's history minute.
It can't, if it's relevant to the day or time or any recent event in any way, you're not allowed to do it. It has to be completely unrelated to anything that's going on.
Well, actually, this one is completely relevant too. Things of the day.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
How so?
So, this is a college humor video that I found pretty hilarious, and I haven't linked to College Humor in a while, so here's the deal.
I haven't gone to College Humor in a while.
I still go because, you know what? It is a gold mine of great videos.
It is.
But it's a good filter. If you want to see funny videos on the internet, to be perfectly honest, and you don't want to spend a lot of your time trolling for them on the internet, College Humor's video feed is actually a pretty good subset of all the worthwhile videos.
They basically
on the
have
internet.
people there who gets videos submitted to them, and their job is basically watch them all and pick out good ones.
So,
it's a shitty job, but someone does it.
This is a short skit wherein someone finds out by going through his attic that I guess his grandpa's a big fan of Wolfenstein.
I'm a big fan of Wolfenstein.
Yeah, well, apparently, look at
But not the way he is.
Well, this guy, Grandpa, was really into this. Look at all these autographed books. Oh my God, cosplay.
Great.
What's this picture of Peepaw hanging out with a guy dressed as the final boss from Wolfenstein?
I like how Grandpa is Peepaw.
It's a good video. You should watch it and then think about the tragedy of World War II and the Nuremberg trials.
Great. So here is the thing of the day that is getting away from Godwin's Law. This is a blowback rubber band gun shaped like a Desert Eagle.
5-0.
It doesn't say replica down the side of it, even though that's what it is. It's made of wood. It's amazing. I would pay monies for this. It shoots rubber bands, and it also has these little wooden shells that shoot out the side. It's sort of just amazing all over the place. And
that's the kind of thing.
If you look at the side of YouTube, you can see as a whole geekery of making guns, rubber band guns that look like real guns and function like real guns. But this one, I think, is the current best of.
That's the kind of thing that I would like to have on a little stand on my desk.
Yeah, kind of thing I wouldn't bring to the airport.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have an orange tip.
Okay. Meta moment.
We're going to be at PAX Prime.
That's pretty much all that fucking matters right now.
Next weekend.
Oh, shit, son.
On Thursday, we're going to arrive and go to a fancy party for charity. I don't believe it's sold out yet as of when I checked a few hours ago. We will be there. We're going to be in the VIP section. We will be running games for people who attend who are not VIPs. We'll be hanging out. If you want to hang out with us for several hours with dinner and drinks in I think the tallest building in Seattle, and have all the money you pay for this go to charity, check this thing out because we will be there on Thursday. It's going to be cool.
It's
also,
dogsledevents.com.
Yes.
DAWG.
We will link to it.
Dogsledevents.com.
And on Monday, PAX is 4 goddamn days. Oh my God.
My God.
We're going to be presenting a brand new lecture, Bad Games, in the Wolfman Theater.
It's going to be so bad.
At noon. Oh, I should bring a power glove.
Do you have one?
In Arizona.
Great.
You know, I never had a power glove contemporary to when I wanted one, non-ironically.
Sure. So,
Book Club Book is Stasiland. I'm almost done with it. Scott hasn't started it yet. Y'all should read it. This NSA shit is not cool, and
No.
I think you really need to.
Really? Because I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah?
No.
Yeah?
No.
40% of Americans are totally cool with it, apparently.
I don't know about that.
Guys, you got to get mad. Seriously, Stasiland is it's the book club book. It's pretty good, has a few flaws, but there's this one story in it. I'm going to try to sell you guys actually reading this book. Basically, this guy worked for the Stasi. He was like a low-level functionary.
Shitty job.
And he had, his like department had won this like bullshit award. So it had this plate on the wall, this plastic plate.
Best at Stasi.
And the plate was like, best department something. I forget the details. So eventually he was kicked out of that office for insubordination.
Good job.
And as he left, he was sitting in the office ready to leave. And he was like, I gotta take one last stab at these guys. And he saw this ugly, like fake gold plated plastic plate. He fucking stole it.
Yeah.
And that's when the Stasi and the GDR instituted the, I think, stolen plate recovery initiative. And sent agents to track him and try to find the plate that he hid somewhere.
Nice.
And the story goes on from there.
Awesome.
And that guy, there's at the very end, he's like having that plate. He has the plate to this day.
Yeah.
And he is like, this is the symbol of everything that I fought for.
That plate should be in a museum.
Well, it's in his house now, and I feel like he deserves to keep it in his house till he dies of old age, and then it's going in a museum. Or maybe they'll bury him with it. Either way.
Whatever. Other meta things. We have this email newsletter. It kind of works. People actually read it. It has content that I write.
It's really funny.
I'm probably going to send it out like tomorrow or maybe this weekend.
It has its own things of the day.
Yeah, so if you go to our website, you can sign up for that. You can also follow us in all the other internet places that exist, Twitters, Facebooks, iTunes, YouTubes. So go to all those places and follow us in all those places to get, if you like us, apparently you like us enough to waste your goddamn time listening to this worthless podcast.
So Scott,
you should at least go to the other places and you'll get even more of the shit you like.
How does one sign up for our newsletter?
You go to frontrecruit.com.
All right.
And you go down to the footer area, right?
All right.
And it says newsletter. You click on that.
Click on that shit.
You type your email address and you push subscribe.
All right.
That's it.
You guys should all subscribe.
It's not hard.
It's pretty cool. Stuff happens in there. Australia, because we didn't quite finish talking about it
we were
before.
there a long time, so we had a lot to say. We only said a show's worth, so we got maybe another almost show's worth to say.
Yep, because
But I forget what we already said, so Rim, please go down the list of notes we made about things we did but did not talk about.
All right, so the biggest thing that I can say that happened is we went biking.
Oh, right.
So we decided, because Emily and I did this a while ago. We went to Japan for a couple of weeks, and we stayed in Nagoya, which is kind of a chill. It's not like the kind of city you think tourists would go to. It's
Someone
kind of a
once
chill
said
place.
it was the Philadelphia of Japan.
I've heard a lot of people say it's the Chicago of Japan.
Sure.
But it's
What do
just
I know?
a chill place, and Emily went to school there, so we're like, hey, let's go. So we stayed there for a few days, and we rented bikes one day, and biked just all around the city, like everywhere we went. Like
Isn't
visiting.
Japan mad hilly?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I can bike.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's no trouble at all. Biking was difficult there, though, partly because everyone bikes super slow and bikes on the sidewalk with terrible bikes.
And the bikes are shitty, yeah.
Yeah. We saw a few cool people biking in the street with real bikes, but we could not rent real bikes.
Wah, wah.
Kind of like we couldn't rent real bikes in Melbourne.
Wah, wah.
So we decided we were going to rent bikes one of the days and just bike around Melbourne all day and like bike up and down the coast because the coast is right there. So we tried to find a place to rent bikes. And it was actually kind of hard because
they have the city bike equivalent, the bike share program.
It's the exact same physical bikes that we have in New York with City Bike.
The
It's
same
Melbourne.
system.
It's called something else.
It's just A, way cheaper, and B, helmets are mandatory. But they just sell helmets fucking everywhere for $5.
Yep, there's like a Melbourne City helmet you can buy for $5 to any 7-Eleven.
And people just like leave these things on some of the bikes because they don't give a shit.
Yep. So it's cool. Look at the difference. In New York, the argument was we don't have a helmet law in general for bikes. And the argument was that we shouldn't because studies show that when there's a helmet law, people bike way less, like way less. And statistically, supposedly, the average rate of deaths due to obesity when people are not active is worse than the average rate of deaths due to people not wearing helmets when biking. Adults, not children. We do have laws about children having to wear helmets, which
One
is a good
person
idea.
did finally give me, though, a good argument for why there should be a helmet law. Because my opinion is basically, look, brakes, you could kill someone else if you don't have brakes.
Yep.
But a helmet, it's like, if you want to kill yourself, be my guest. It doesn't hurt me if you have no helmet. And the guy was like, well, when you have socialized medicines, right? Not only...
I've heard that argument.
There was a second argument. Not only can it cost other people if you get hurt more, right? But let's say a driver hits you, right? Well, if you were wearing a helmet, maybe you only, break some bones. Now the driver is responsible for hurting you. But if you don't have a helmet and you die, now the driver is responsible for manslaughter. So you're hurting that driver.
So here...
The driver didn't do anything differently. He hit you. But because you weren't wearing a helmet, the consequence is more severe, even though... The driver did the exact same driving mistake.
But it is not the victim's responsibility to protect himself from crime.
No, it's not.
And pretty much all the time when a car hits a bike, it's pretty much the car's fault.
New York, let's say it's 50-50.
Yeah, but the thing is, I read a lot of the reports of when there are bike incidents in the city. It's something I just follow because I'm an activist about biking.
It's pretty important.
But a lot of them end up being road rage or things like that.
Yep.
As opposed to biker ran a red light and got hit. It's often car ran a biker off the road.
Mm.
But I digress. What about the eggshell thing? That if you punch a dude and he just happens to be mad fragile.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, and in the U.S., the rationale is, fuck you. You committed a crime. If the consequences were worse than you expected, you shouldn't have committed that crime in the first place.
Mm.
You should have been aware that as soon as you do something dangerous or stupid, the consequences could be unlimited depending on circumstance.
I just tapped a guy on the shoulder and he died. What the fuck?
Yep. But were you tapping him with intent to injure?
No.
Then that rule usually doesn't apply.
Okay, whatever. Anyway,
but in Melbourne, they have a helmet law, but helmets are super cheap because they're subsidized by the government. In New York, there's no helmet law.
There are actually free helmets you can get, but it's a little tricky to get them. They're not just in every store in bundles.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't wear a helmet often when I take a city bike on a very short trip.
I don't see anyone wearing a helmet on a city bike. I only see people wearing helmets who have other bikes.
I'd say half the people I see on city bikes are wearing helmets.
I
but
almost never see a city bike rider with a helmet.
The city bike people, well, that's because you're in tourist town where you work. Where I am,
most of the people who are riding those city bikes are people commuting to tourist town who also work there.
Most of the people I see downtown are commuters and people using them to go out to lunch, like to go to the good food truck and back. And about half of them have helmets. The ones who don't have helmets are the tourists. But apparently, all the traditional bike rental places went out of business pretty much as soon as their equivalent of city bike was put in place.
Yeah, all the New York people, all the New York bike shops were like, we're going to go out of business when we can't rent any bikes because the city bike is going to make, kill our rental business.
And you know what?
It did in Melbourne.
It turns out that's true.
But bikes, there was so much biking there in general. Bike shops didn't have rental businesses anymore.
But they were still bike shops.
They were still plenty of bike shops making plenty of money because there was so much biking going on.
So it really only hurt the bike rental industry.
It didn't hurt the bike shops in general because they did indeed still make plenty of money.
In fact,
doing other things besides renting bikes.
We were talking to the guy at a shop. We were like, hey, can we rent a bike? And he was like, hell no. Why would I rent bikes?
Yeah.
But there's a chance that actually bike shops are doing better because more people start biking because of these programs, and then they go buy a bike.
And a better helmet than the $5 shit one.
Yep, and also city bikes suck, so if you like biking, you're going to eventually buy a real bike.
Yeah, for $100 a year, a real bike will pay for itself very quickly compared to city bike. Anyway.
But it was really interesting that it did, in fact, destroy the bike rental industry, and I have zero sympathy.
Yep. So we wanted to get, so you didn't want to get the city bike equivalent because it's a pain in the ass.
Well, it would have been great.
They're shitty.
They would have been great if our intent was to use them to go from place to place in the major downtown area. Like, go to the museum on the bike, go to a restaurant on the bike, go to a museum on the bike. But no, we wanted to bike like fucking down the coast and off into the burbs.
I wanted to go to where the Grand Prix track was, which because it's a road course where they have the Australian Grand Prix. So it's like, well, it's just roads, but the same roads F1 cars go on. But
we were basically biking. We wanted to bike way out into places like in New York.
How cool would that be to bike around the F1 track that's just currently normal roads and is not currently an F1 track?
So we needed real bikes to do this because it's going to be an all-day thing.
Somewhat real bikes.
Yes,
at
and
least.
We found a tourist place that they rented out like date bikes, like $40. Here's a mountain bike for a day, perfectly serviceable.
Yep.
Not great, but not terrible. It worked.
It worked. It was the low bar step through. I was like, but it went. It had gears, which the city bike thing only had 3 in a hub gear. This had real gears.
Now, the bike guy saved us from first catastrophe because we're about to leave. He's like, wait. Americans, right? And we're like, yep. And he's like, front brakes on the right. And we're like, what?
Yeah, they had, the walking on the left, the driving on the left, the switching of the brakes. But they didn't switch the gears. The gear switching was still the same.
Yep.
But the brakes, it's like the right-hand brake breaks the front wheel.
If he had not told me that, I might have had some trouble.
I might have hurt myself.
Well,
Early.
Yeah, because we got right away around these hills. And I'm like, wrong brake, up. So we get going. We get maybe a mile out.
Yeah, so I'm basically super paying attention. I'm like, don't get hit by a tram. Don't get hit by a car.
Yep, the whole time I'm thinking
Stay on the left side of the road. Stay on the left side of the road. Use the correct brake lever. Stay on the left side of the road. Don't get hit by a tram.
I kept almost like turning right and like, oh, nope, left, stay on the left. And I almost went into the right bike lane like 3 times. I was like, no, left bike lane.
So then something happened that I did not expect at all, right? The trams are on tracks that are in the road as opposed to sticking out of the road for obvious reasons, right? I just put both wheels right into that track.
Because the track, because basically we were biking in a bike lane. There was a car like kind of derpy. So we had to go, go around the car. And I think we were both just really focused on left. And the tram track had a switch there. So it's kind of like at an angle. So unless you saw it and purposefully went over it at a good angle, your tires would go right into it.
So both wheels are in this indent in the road. I should have just been able to go forward and stay in the grid. No.
I think what didn't help was that our bike tires were like a millimeter wider than the tram track. Like if we'd been in a road bike, that would have sucked, but you could have just stopped. You would have kept rolling inside of the track. But because we had these wide mountain tires that stuck, your bike basically just did a full stop.
Yeah, so I was veering to the left because I wanted to be on the road. So I just basically fell over on the left, like wham, right on the ground. Oh.
Now I hear a commotion and I kind of stop and I see Scott on the ground in a heap and I'm like, great. So I pull over.
And I'm like, really? I bike. How many years have I been biking in New York? Right? New York City, Manhattan. I've been biking here since 2009. It's almost 2014. Almost every day biking like 5-10 miles minimum, usually more. And literally zero accidents of any kind, including falling over, hitting anything, or being hit by anything in Manhattan, where people are fucking afraid to death to bike. And I'm biking in Melbourne on a weekday, basically sort of in between the city-suburb area where there's really nothing going on.
Yep.
Wham! Right in the ground immediately.
So I pull over and I turn back around because, bike accidents happen. I'm thinking like, all right, whatever. Come on, Scott, let's go. Like, get up. So I go over there, and he's still laying on the ground by the time I bike back to him, because I had to bike back up the hill. So I go back up there, and Scott's just laying there. So I kind of start waving cars out of the way. I'm like, Scott, are you okay? And I think you hit your head hard enough. I don't think you had a concussion, but I don't think you remember much of this initial bit.
I remember putting the wheels in the thing.
Yeah, what's the next thing you remember?
Thinking about, oh shit, don't let my head hit the ground.
Yeah.
And then basically sliding on the cement with my gloved hands.
Yep.
And then my helmet sort of hitting the ground slightly and then kicking the visor up.
Yeah.
And then laying on the ground going, bleh. And then going, really? Really?
So I come over there. I'm like, Scott, get up. And he's like, no.
I did not want to get up.
He said no. And
I was
like,
way tired.
I was like, Scott, come on. Get out of the road. Are you okay? And he was like, just let me lay here for a few minutes.
Yeah.
He's laying there like in a heap, like the bike's still kind of on top of him. So I kind of pull his bike and I wave cars and I'm like, I kind of drag him sideways to the edge of the road. Like, all right, Scott, can you get up? And he's like, yep. And he starts to stand up.
And then I was mad dizzy.
He's like, nope. And he slides back down. And I'm like, okay, I think you're hurt. And at this point, he's bleeding profusely from his chin. I didn't want to tell him yet.
I couldn't really. I thought I was, because my chin definitely hit the ground.
Yep. Did you notice you kept like trying to rub your chin on your shirt? And I was like, Scott, just don't rub just wait. Because I know you. But
I couldn't like feel or see if there was blood. But I was like, yeah, I think I cut my chin, but it didn't really hurt.
Yeah, well, I figured because I know you, and you can watch Ichi the Killer, and you're fine. But real blood,
Well, blood is fine. It's not like I was looking at an open wound.
I was looking at an open wound. It was torn. It wasn't really a cut. It was a gash.
Great.
Like I don't know, 4 millimeters long, but like 2 millimeters wide, and the flesh was kind of like derp, like hanging out.
Great.
Yeah. So I get you up and you get way dizzy and you're like, and that's when you started saying, really? 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 So I walk you over to this
Seriously?
fence.
I came all the way here and I was going to bike around the whatever and yeah.
Yep. And I was like, are you okay? Like, are you just dazed? I figured he was just dazed at this point. And he seemed fine, other than that he was dazed. So maybe, minor head injury, whatever. And the cut, maybe some stitches, no big deal. So I lean you against this fence and I turn around and then you drop your water bottle, just like it falls out of your hand. And you start sliding down the fence and then you're sitting down. So I was like, Scott, I think I need to call 000, which we remembered to look up what that was.
Well, no, when we
got
got there and I got the SIM cards, I was like, what's the emergency number for this fucking country? He's like, 3 zeros.
Apparently,
I hope I don't have to call an operator because that's...
apparently, most phones, if you have a SIM card and you dial 911, it'll route it to 000.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I called the ambulance and they were, I had to pick what kind of emergency it was with this little menu. And then I got to someone immediately. They were super friendly. They were super polite. They were the nicest I have ever had a 911 or 000 operator ever be in my life. Because I've called 911 a bunch of times over the years in New York for various things. And the person on the other end is usually super surly.
Yeah, they're like, all right, what's the emergency? Okay.
Really?
Tell me your address. Where are you?
It's like, is anyone dead or are they just bleeding?
Is this really an emergency?
How agitated is that homeless man who keeps attacking people? Do you really need a cop to come or will he just tire himself out? But no, they were like super polite. So they're like, all right, look, we're going to send someone. And they asked me all these good questions and Scott's just kind of sitting there kind of dazed. And then an ambulance comes. And I go wave it down.
Well, we hear some sirens, and I'm like, really? You don't need sirens for a guy who fell off a bike and is conscious and sitting here. It's not necessary.
Yep, so I wave the guy down, and he pulls over, slows down. He's like, sorry, mate, had a cardiac arrest. Someone else will be along for you shortly. And then he drives off again.
And it's like, oh,
wow.
Well, that made sense.
That was polite.
You never see any ambulance in the U.S. is not going to pull over and talk to someone who's waving at them.
They had 3 EMTs. And they immediately are hilarious. They look at Scott and they're like,
oh, that's the second ambulance that actually showed up without sirens.
Yep, the main woman who was kind of the leader of the group, I guess, comes over to me and she asked me all these questions while the other 2 are poking and prodding at Scott and checking his neck to make sure nothing was crazy.
I checked my
broken.
neck so many times. It's like, seriously, you already checked that neck.
Well, they asked me a bunch of times. Remember when I dragged you out of the street? Remember when I kicked your leg a bunch of times? I was making sure that you didn't have any like obvious neck or back injuries and you just had your normal injuries.
That's pretty unlikely.
Yeah. I want to make sure because I didn't want to severely jostle your jimmies until I was sure that there was no danger of further jimmy jostling. So once they determined that he was not dying, they were like, so yeah, we'll take him to the hospital. We can take his bike too if you want to keep going on your trip. They were totally like, yeah, you should just keep biking. We'll deal with this. And they took my phone and they're like, we got to take some pictures of him so you can make fun of him later.
And I was like, no.
And she takes the phone and takes all these pictures of him in the ambulance. She actually took his bike and just put it in the ambulance. And they were like, yeah, you can come collect him later. And then they drove off. And I just kept biking, and I spent the rest of the day biking all the way up and down the coast along the beaches and saw a crazy jellyfish. And I saw Luna Park, which is basically the Coney Island of Australia.
Great.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that shit.
Yep, so what did you see?
I saw an Australian hospital.
How was it? I think they took you to the Alfred.
Yep, so I'm sure, I don't want to say it's the best hospital ever, but basically I will say it's more likely U.S. hospitals are shit. I mean, we knew that already, right? But to the degree to which they are shit is now very clear.
Yeah, let's go back in time. Rim cuts the front of his fucking pinky off. Like, I cut it off. It's dangling by a thread. I can see nerves. It is pulsing blood. I hit my bone with the knife. I go to a hospital. And after 4 hours of no one helping me, I walked out without treatment and got stitches from a clinic. Actually, I didn't get stitches because it was too late. I got super glue and iodine from a clinic the next day. And in fact, had I gotten stitches, I probably wouldn't have lost all the sensation in the tip of my finger. But no, American Hospital didn't want 1 fucking second to work with me.
Right, so they take me to the hospital, and immediately they're making me fill out the forms, and, as soon as I hand in forms, they come and talk to me right away, and it's like, there was basically no waiting. I waited effectively almost zero. Not exactly zero, but almost zero, right? Like, as soon as I was done, they were like, all right, Scott, come this way. I'm like, all right. And then, like, in a minute, someone's checking me out, and then, he's talking to me, asking me questions, checking my neck, and again, stitching me up. Right? It's like, God, there's basically no waiting here. Just immediately emergency room. And then it's like, okay, we're going to x-ray your arm. You fucked up. Follow the black line to the x-ray room. So I follow the black line on the floor, and there's an x-ray room. I just walk in. They x-ray me immediately. I walk back. Then I waited maybe 10, 15 minutes. And then they looked at the x-rays, and then, it's like it took basically no waiting. I was maybe at the hospital for a total of 3 to 4 hours. And then as soon as I was done and walking out, it was coincidentally good timing. Rim was there getting the bike at the same time.
Yep, basically I biked around all day, and because Google Latitude still worked, I actually have a nice map of everywhere I bike.
Yeah, but I hope, I'm pretty sure in all the other good modern socialized medicine countries, like, maybe Canada, UK, Japan probably, that hospitals are probably equally as good as that in emergency room situations. I was actually on the fast track, which I think means, yeah, we know what's wrong with you. It's probably really simple. We're just going to treat you and send you on your way. Ba-bam. And that's the fast track, right? Which was me. And it was indeed a fast track. There's no such thing as a fucking fast track in the U.S.
Yep, there's pretty much the slow track and the slower track.
I think part of the reason for the good emergency room speeds was that, since they have socialized medicine, poor people went to the regular doctor for their regular stuff. And people were only there for actual emergencies.
Wait a minute. Are you implying that if we had universal health care that we would solve a lot of our basic infrastructural problems with health care?
All I'm saying is Australian hospital good, U.S. hospital not good.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
And, you might say, oh, well, our hospitals are good if you're rich.
It wasn't
actually not so much.
Going to the hospital, never a good thing.
Seriously.
But I did get a good tourist experience out of it.
That time when I cut my finger off, I had ridiculous rich person insurance and tons of money and still could not get good treatment.
You went to poor people Newburgh Hospital.
I went to, I would have had to, hire a helicopter to go to the rich hospital.
Hey, I wonder where the rich people in Garrison go if they have a problem.
I know of a few fancy hospitals in New York, like New York City, that you can go to.
Yeah.
But they're not quick emergency treatment.
Well, my mom's cousin, the crazy Orthodox anesthesiologist, right? I think he was working at, was it Columbia maybe? So
I'm a reform anesthesiologist.
When his dad had, my great uncle had cancer, basically he got him into the rich people floor, and I got to go, I was visiting, and there's basically a rich people floor in the hospital, which is basically a tiny Mandarin hotel that takes up a whole floor, and each room is sort of a hospital room, right? But outside the hospital room, it's basically luxury hotel, and the food is way better, and everything is way better. So if you're rich, you can go to that kind of place if you have a problem. So yeah.
All right. So
other Australia things that aren't hospitals.
Well, I'll say this. So I biked over because down in Melbourne, in the place that Scott wanted to go, there was the old racetrack. It's
not an old racetrack.
It's old. It's because it's not used anymore. It's gone.
What do you mean?
So the racetrack that was left was basically just a road that doesn't go anywhere.
They use it every year.
Yeah, and right now it's old because there's nothing going on there. There's no remnants of it whatsoever.
It's a road course.
Yes.
They race on regular roads.
So
not
basically,
on
it's a regular road.
Closed circuit.
It's a regular road that no one would ever use because it doesn't go anywhere.
Doesn't it go around the lake?
Yeah, no one would go around that lake, really. There's no reason to.
Okay.
It's literally, there's nothing there. There's a bunch of bike paths that go around the lake, and there's a road around the lake that no one appears to drive on ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept going along the beach, and the one thing I realized after I realized how far I'd gotten biking, we could have just fucking biked all the way to Phillip Island.
It would have taken a while, but yeah.
It wouldn't have taken that long.
Maybe
half a day?
Yeah, half a day, 3/4 of a day, 6 to 8 hours maybe.
Yep. It would have been a pretty good ride, too, but I got a decent ways down.
We would have needed better bikes, and we would have needed a way to keep the bikes.
The cool thing about the beaches in Melbourne is that it was winter, right? The water was warmer in the ocean there in the winter because I
We
went
were
and, like,
crazy
stuck my
close
hand
to
in it.
Antarctica, too. Closer
Yeah.
to Antarctica than I've been in my whole life.
That water was warmer to the point that I would almost consider touching it and maybe like surfing in it than the water in Wildwood in late May or the water in Lake Superior, well, ever.
Water in any Great Lake ever.
Lake Erie's actually really warm
When?
most of the summer.
Okay.
It actually is.
Sure.
It is.
It's also the lake you least want to go in.
Why?
Dirtiest.
It's been cleaned up substantially.
I'm just saying.
Lake
it's
Ontario
You're
gets
telling
pretty
me
warm too.
name a Great Lake that is dirtier than Lake Erie.
Okay. So I took the bike back to the place because the guy who ran the bike rental place obviously didn't want to stay there that long.
He had no business.
He seemed kind of annoyed that we rented bikes because it meant he had to stay there all the way until his closing time. So I come back, a little while later with one bike, and I'm like, I'm going to drop this bike off, and I'll come back later with the other bike. And he expressed zero interest in what happened to Scott. So later, I took the tram to the hospital, and then I took Scott's bike back, and I get there, and I give him the stuff for that bike, and I'm all done. And he was like, all right, great. And then he immediately just locked up the shop and left.
Mm-hmm.
Never at any point expressed any interest in what happened to you, why it was just me, why I brought back both bikes.
All right.
So, yeah.
A non-curious person.
Yep. But it was, Melbourne's really bikeable because I biked around the downtown area
Super
too.
bikeable. If
Way
you stay
more
out
bikeable
of the
than New
tram
York.
tracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
The tram tracks are more dangerous than the tram. It's like if the tram hits you, yeah, you're dead, but that's very hard to get hit by it.
Oh, yeah. So it turned out your arm was broken.
Oh, it's
And-
fractured.
Yeah. What's up, Scott? Fracture. Broken.
Yep.
Broke bone.
Well, broken is usually only used when it's broken all the way through. And fracture is the word you use for a partial breaking.
Yep. So it wasn't broken off.
No, that would have been very
Wasn't
bad.
sticking out.
I would have been not good.
You would have been sad if you looked down and there was bonium sticking
I
out.
would have been barfed and passed out, probably.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I have a bunch of pictures of biking up and down the coast that Scott hasn't seen, I guess. They all look kind of the same. The beaches are so ridiculously clean.
No.
And so nice. And the dunes are so tall. I want to be in that area
You know,
in
the
the summer.
Wildwood Beach is pretty clean after the Comet.
But it's not clean in the same way. It's,
Non-Australia related thing, right? So
Yeah.
near my work is NBC. It's around the corner.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of times, basically, musicians come there, I think, for the Today Show or for other shit. And one of those boy bands, I guess the One Direction was going to be there for something. So all these girls have been waiting there since like last night when I biked home from work. I saw them waiting. And they all had like these 1D signs and stuff. And today when I biked past, basically I think they were clearing them out. Like I guess their shit happened. And there was still those fenced in areas where they sit and wait, for I guess 24 plus hours to see their whatever boy band.
like we should have done that time we went to the Nintendo store.
Yeah, basically, they littered the fuck out of those little penned-in areas. And if I was that One Direction, I would have been like, we're not doing the show for you people who littered all over the street. Fuck you. But they're just some boy band, and they got to do whatever the contract says, and they probably don't even know or care. But that's what I would have done. If I saw that my fans had littered the fuck out of whatever, I'll show you the picture I took with my Google
Yeah,
Glass
guys.
while I was
So
biking.
if they let the line into our panel at PAX, we're gonna go outside and look. And if there's litter all along that line, we're not running the fucking panel. We'll
That's
just walk
never
out.
happened, ever.
Yeah, because people.
But no, if there was like a panel and the people were just like clearly like, not good people in the audience and they didn't, I'd be like, oh, fuck you, not doing it.
Yeah, like one of them has a MOBA shirt on.
I've never had to do this, obviously, but it could theoretically happen, right? But yeah, I'll show you. They made a disaster of that little area.
So the hotel that has the big casino in Melbourne has a thing.
The Crown.
And the thing is that they have these big columns that have water popping out of them, like fountains, and every night on the hours, they shoot fire out of the top.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like a really lame thing, but
they have a whole bunch of towers, and they sort of shoot the fire in a sequence, and it's a big fire, so it's like doom, doom, doom,
Well,
doom,
that's
doom,
the thing.
doom,
It
doom.
sounds really lame when people describe it, but people kept describing it and kept mentioning it.
It's
So,
not
like,
bad.
So we're like, all right.
It's the kind
we
of thing they do in Vegas.
So we tried to go over there, but it was also fucking cold. We were really hungry.
So we went into the dessert place inside the casino, right near the edge, which is actually probably the best dessert place you
Oh
found.
my God, those pies.
They had these pies and cakes in there.
Like, I was like, all right, I'm going to get your cake pie. They had this, like, you get a slice of pie and some ice cream and whatever, but the pie selection was off the hook.
It was basically, we're like looking for a place where you can just get like a slice of cake, and it's like, that's the only place you could find, but it was crazy good.
So we go in there, but then because we got the fancy pie, it took too long. So we hear the fire thing starting up outside.
And we're
like,
inside. We can barely see it. We can see like the reflection of it off the windows.
So we see some reflections. We're like, whatever, all right. So we're just eating our
That
pie.
clearly seemed cool. We should check that out.
Yeah,
again.
but then the fire got bigger and bigger, and to the point where like outside was lit up like there was a tiny sun
And
there.
this was night.
Yeah, and like you can feel the heat. Like,
And we were
like,
inside. We could feel the heat through the window.
We're like, oh, I guess that thing is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, probably worth seeing because it's only like 10 minutes long.
So the next night we go back over there,
I think it was 2 nights later.
but it doesn't matter. We went back another night, and we got cake and pie early.
Mm-hmm.
And we stand there. and it
Actually,
was-
I got a croissant filled with chocolat.
Oh, you did? What did I got? Something that was too much food. It was like this white chocolate.
Mine was just the right amount.
I got this like white chocolate truffle thing that I couldn't finish because it was just the richest thing I've ever tried to eat in my entire life.
Okay.
So we're standing there, and it was really windy, and it starts up, and it's like a little putt of fire, and then it just fucking turns off.
Yeah, clearly it's somewhat manually controlled.
Yeah, some
and they
guys
gave
got a
up
key-
because it was too windy.
Some guys obviously had a keyboard of make the fire come out.
Yep.
And he probably sits there watching it on like a closed circuit TV and decides like, I'll make this one go. I'll make this one go. I'll do a cool thing. And obviously they have one of them that they kind of test with to see if it'll work. And the mechanism looks pretty simple. They just have a pilot light and they just dump gas out onto
The
it.
thing just sprays a fuck ton of gas right into the pilot light.
Yep. Apparently, when they first built it, it roasted a whole bunch of pigeons, and now it looks like they have it set up to warn the pigeons before it starts. Or the pigeons that were not leery of that thing are all dead, and the rest of the pigeons know to stay the fuck away
Pigeons
from
have
it.
learned, yeah.
But that whole downtown area at night was kind of, it was, I don't want to say fake, because it wasn't fake. It was like people were there doing their normal business, but it was the kind of place that could not exist in a city like New York without being filled with homeless people and trash. Because it was just, there were benches and little secluded areas that were kind of quiet and out of the way.
On the
like,
water.
like you could sit on the water, basically out of sight of anyone, in the middle of the night, eating your cake or pie or whatever, and there wasn't a homeless person living there.
There were some homeless peoples we saw. They were mostly seen to be crazies, but
the city
because
had,
of socialism, really those people are just crazies or people who have, refused to accept the welfare or whatever.
there were areas along the waterfront where you could sit quietly where no one else could see you, and the city did not have a problem with this. They didn't have like spikes to make sure people don't lay down. They didn't have like those areas that are designed almost like panopticons where you can't actually be anywhere private because if people are somewhere private, they'll be up to shady shit, or at least the city's afraid of that. There weren't a lot of cops around, and no one really seemed to bother anybody. It was weird. It was pleasant. Kind of like Providence has areas like that.
Yeah, not New York. Yeah.
Not New York. New York can't have places like that.
Well, maybe in some outer boroughs.
So we went to a bunch of museums, and we went to the zoo, the Melbourne Zoo.
Yeah, so the museums we went to a lot of free places. For example, the Parliament House, the Parliament of Victoria, which is the state government house, but it used to be, originally they were before they united into Australia. They were just colonies, like the same way Connecticut was a colony of Britain.
Yep.
Victoria was a colony, so it was actually the colonial parliament originally, and it was the Australian state parliament now. And it was crazy royal and shit, which, I sort of had been used to by that point after seeing the government house.
Yep.
But yeah, way royal, like to the point where they have like gold maces they had to carry around.
Yeah, we're sitting there
to conduct business.
We're sitting
and
there and
like
they're
a
like,
chair
see-
for the fucking queen/king to sit in.
We're in the House of Lords or whatever thing, the upper
the
house.
House of Lords equivalent.
Yes, because they went into a lot of explanation of parliamentary procedure, and I guess because I only know sort of like ghetto parliamentary procedure, I never think about it in terms of what the British government's
The
actually
parliamentary, not just a parliamentary procedure.
Yes, but the
parliamentary
procedure. And at one point she's like, yeah, so like she's talking about how they renovated everything and the gold. And then I'm thinking, I look, and there's all this gold everywhere. And yeah, it's all real gold. They just put gold
Oh,
flake.
yeah, by the way, all of this stuff that looks like gold paint is actually real gold everywhere.
Yes, all of it.
Also, all that gold that looks shinier than the other gold, that's new gold we repainted when we renovated, but the old gold is under that gold.
Yep. And we're in there with basically a bunch of tourists. And they're tourists in the stereotypical sense. So every 2 minutes in the middle of her talk, she'd be like, please come back. Don't wander off. Come back here. You, come back. You, stop touching that. You, come here. Like,
Don't take the gold.
like, seriously, you fucking tourists.
Seriously.
I hate you all. Everywhere in the world that you go. Like, literally, she'd like get everyone together and like cajole them into all sitting down and then start talking. She'd turn her back and half these people would just get up and wander off into the places that they're not supposed to go because there's business going on back
Royal
there.
business.
Yeah. But it was pretty cool.
I really wanted Rim to sit in the Queen's chair.
I might have gotten in some trouble. I would have gotten the boot.
What are they? Yeah, sure.
Why didn't you sit in the Queen's chair?
I was chicken. I had already been to the hospital. It was your turn to check out the jails.
But we went to all these we went to all these sort of like the weird museums.
Yeah, we went to the old Treasury building, which is now a museum, and we saw where they used to keep the gold, because they keep the gold somewhere else now. They like gold there. But that had all the stuff about Ned Kelly, who everyone in Australia loves.
Ned Kelly.
Ned Kelly's basically the, I guess, famous criminal of Australia, and this dude was a badass, wore fucking armor and shot people. Badass.
Also, he might have been the first weeaboo. He cosplayed. His armor was based on, quote, Oriental armor that he learned about, like samurai armor. And he was a fanboy of Asian culture in a general sense and apparently modeled his little gang after it. And his last words were something to the effect of, one of those Orientals is worth more than 100 of you assholes. He was just really into Asian culture.
Well, I think wasn't his gang full of like Chinese people?
Yep, I think some Japanese people too.
Maybe.
I worry because a lot of the literature we were reading in the museum was like contemporary news articles. So they used the term Oriental a lot. So
Yeah.
it's hard to tell which type of Asian cultures they were talking about.
Australia, so racist, which brings us to the Immigration Museum.
The Immigration Museum was great. It was basically, listen,
Australia.
guys.
It was a museum for Australians, so it was weird being there as non-Australians. But it's basically saying, Australians, you so racist, stop being racist.
We're trying hard to not be racist.
We're less racist than we used to be, but you're still fucking racist. Jesus Christ, look at how racist we used to be. Holy fuck.
Yep, the white Australia policy
We didn't have a
made
Martin
it
Luther King Jr. here, seriously.
into the modern era.
So we have this museum instead.
I think my favorite of the ridiculous racism was, I forget the guy's name, but there was one article in that whole museum in one of these newspapers about an initiative to take all the Aborigines and send them to Africa. Africa. Yeah, it really takes a moment to sink in just how fucking stupid that idea is.
I loved
It's
it. There
dumb
was a
on
thing
so
there where
many
it was
levels.
sort of like Papers, Please, but it was sort of like a, just a video, kiosk thing.
Yep, like, would you let this person in?
And it's like, ask this person questions, and it's like little videos of people talking to you, and it's like, would you let them into the country? And it's basically like, yeah, I would let all these people in because I'm not a racist asshole, but basically I'm supposed to be role-playing some jerk from the olden times, and it's like, of course, I'm a racist jerk. I'm not letting this person in.
Yep.
Because they're not white and from the UK, even
But
though they're otherwise perfectly okay.
It's good. It reminds me of a lot of the stuff I'd see in museums as a kid, like in the mid-90s, where even the big Melbourne Museum, the main one we went to.
Which is the biggest museum in the Southern Hemisphere.
No.
So I don't need to go to any of the Southern Hemisphere museums.
They're definitely really pushing the angle of exposing the bad stuff from the past to remind people that we got to stop doing
That's
this
what
shit.
museums are mostly about.
Yeah. But my favorite exhibit actually had nothing to do with Australia. I think we talked about Far Lab.
Did we?
Did we?
Maybe.
Far Lab was the biggest and best goddamn
If we
horse.
repeated something from our previous Australia episode, we can't remember.
Yeah.
Shows you how much we listen to Geek Nights. Not much.
Far Lab, we go in, we see this stuffed horse. It looks fake because it's too big to be a normal horse.
And it's so like perfect and magnificent.
But it was too big. Like I know horses. I've been around horses, and I'm like, that's a big model of a horse. When I get up there, nope, taxidermied. Nope, real horse. Nope, maybe the fastest racing horse ever.
Yeah, fuck you, Secretariat.
Oh, murdered by the mob. Like, for real.
For reals, the mob poisoned the horse because it was winning before it got a chance to go to the U.S. and try to Kentucky Derby it.
Oh, Phar Lap.
Yep. Good name, too. PHAR Lap.
But my favorite exhibit was the treasures from the Taliban.
Oh, yes. Okay, so that was the temporary exhibit that they were really hyping up.
It's a traveling thing. Nothing to do with Australia.
We weren't allowed to take pictures of it, right? But we went in to see. That's like that. You had to pay extra money to see it because the temporary hot exhibit. Sort of like when they have the Tim Burton exhibit at the MoMA. It's like the temporary thing that costs more money.
Well, like we went to that Silk Road thing that one time.
So the deal was basically some awesome dudes rescued all these artifacts from Afghanistan.
When the Taliban was taking power, a bunch of the museum staff bravely took a bunch of these exhibits that would have been destroyed because the Taliban was destroying any non-Islamic artifacts in the museums.
Yeah, the same guys who are like, dynamiting giant Buddhas and shit.
So they took all these artifacts, as many of them as they could, and they hid them in safes in, I believe, like under the government house. Like, I forget the whole story.
They
had a whole
found
thing about
safe
the story.
places, yeah.
So they hid all these artifacts, and once the U.S. and the war liberated Afghanistan from the Taliban,
they found them.
They found these things, and they're like, oh, fuck. And they're actually filling in huge gaps in our history of that region now that we can study them
what was
again.
Afghanistan like before, right? Because Afghanistan's basically, shit. It's been a really bad place for a long-ass time, right? Decades and decades. So knowing anything about it from olden times is like, what, fucking Alexander the Great type shit, right?
Yeah, a lot of Greek artifacts and Greek diffusion in that area.
Because, like, who is the, we don't know too much. Well, now we know from these artifacts, and there was all kinds of interesting stories.
And within all of that, there was this amazing collapsible crown.
Oh, yeah, that thing
was great. That thing you could, like, take, and the Mongols I've read have some similar type of thing.
Well, a lot of the stuff was like, this nomad group here and this trading Silk Road group there.
Yep,
and
this is obviously a Greek coin that got here at some point.
Yeah, and all kinds of like Marco Polo shit going on.
But there was one bit where they excavated this tomb, and it looked like it was a king of some nomadic tribe, and he was buried with a bunch of his wives, something like that. But the diagram and the artifacts showed that, it was all about him. But they buried him in the side of a hill. What they didn't realize was that hill was actually an even more ancient temple that we know fuck all about.
That'd be like if you buried me in the pyramids in Egypt, and then a long time passed, and then people came and said, oh, this must have been a tomb to Scott. Wait a minute. Scott is nowhere nearly as old as this fucking pyramid. What the fuck?
That was just a really interesting exhibit. So look for it.
If it travels to your country or if you live there, that's worth paying to check out.
Yeah, I'll try to find a link, but it was like the lost treasures of the Taliban, something.
It wasn't lost treasures of the Taliban. It was lost treasures of Afghanistan.
Lost treasures hidden from the Taliban.
Yeah.
Made a big deal about how it was saved from the Taliban.
Very worth seeing. The rest of the museum, kind of worth seeing, at least the Australian history for us non-Australians. But
yeah, I like seeing a lot of the, when we go to the museums
science
here,
part, yeah.
Well, science museums, we don't need to see that.
Yeah.
And
the part I really wanted to see, which is the Aboriginal stuff, renovation closed.
Yep.
Wah, wah.
But, like, when I go to the museums here, like the Natural History Museum and the Art Museum, especially the Art Museum, has areas like, here's a whole bunch of silverware from different eras.
Mm-hmm.
Giant racks of it. And I usually kind of ignore that stuff.
I love that stuff.
It depends. But in Australia, they had sort of artifacts of culture from like the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and that was fascinating.
Well, that's sometimes you go to a modern museum as opposed to an ancient museum.
Exactly, but it was all a lot like the stuff in the U.S., but crooked slightly so.
Well, because you're looking at like that silverware stuff is in the Met, which is all old stuff.
Yep.
Right. If you go to other museums, you'll see more newer stuff. Anyway, do we have anything else to cover on our little things we forgot?
Things we forgot. Let's see. People say no worries a lot, but I think we covered that.
Yep.
It's biking.
Oh, the zoo?
We went to the zoo. The zoo was actually super well designed.
Pretty good zoo.
I was very impressed with the Melbourne Zoo.
Probably better than the Bronx Zoo, yeah, I think.
Maybe. I think it might be because it was built more recently and has been renovated extensively.
Also because the selection of animals was different,
But the zoo was just arranged in a really good fashion to get people to go from exhibit to exhibit to exhibit, rather than having sort of like main walking areas and then here's the side path to exhibit A, in and out of that exhibit. It was more like to go anywhere, you walk through exhibits to get to other exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
So even if no matter what you do, you're gonna pass by a lot of interesting things. And I think it was designed to make people see things that they probably would enjoy but wouldn't think to go see. Like, if you want to go see the tigers, you had to go through a lot of other exhibits to get to the tigers.
Those tigers were mad sad. They were
yeah,
super tired.
Zoos are always both fascinating and sad at the same time. Like, yeah, brown bear, you're probably way more bored here than you would be if you were out in the wilderness.
But, you're not doing too badly. It's not like they're mistreating you, but, yeah, you're bored. And some of the animals are having a good time. Butterflies are having a good time.
We realized something that we thought about off and on, but being at this zoo, because, I've been to a lot of zoos. I'm 30-something years old. 31 years old. Zoos take on a whole different character when you are now also into photography.
Yeah, the animals are actually sitting still. This is way easy.
I mean, when I go to a zoo now, it's like I'll go to the place where there's penguins. And it's like, all right, penguins, you're cool. And 2 minutes later, I walk away. Now it's, all right, I'm going to stand here for a full 5 minutes trying to get pictures of these penguins with all my different lenses. And, oh, look at that one. He's behind a thing. I can get this shot. Oh, shit, that one's moving. Click, 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 click.
Yeah, photography is a complementary geekery. It is the kind, if you try to pick up a new geekery, say, I don't know, being a techno DJ, right? Well, suddenly that's its own thing. That doesn't really partner well with other things except maybe conventions. Really? So you can't do it while you're doing something else. You have to dedicate time to it. It takes away from other geekeries. But if you do photography, you basically just combine that with every fucking thing you do. Oh, video games and photography. Yep, board games and photography.
Peeping, photography.
Conventions, photography. Zoos, you do it all the same. You combine it with everything, so it doesn't take up any time other than editing the photos, which I don't do.
Yep. I do
enough.
I don't do any retouching. All I do is I go through Lightroom and I'm basically like, here's all my pictures.
No.
I do one pass of, all right, I flag all the shit ones as shit. Then I go through the ones that aren't shit. And I do some cursory metadata on all of them. Like, these are all from this thing and these are all from this thing. And I go through one more time and I star the ones that are actually good pictures.
And then you upload them.
Then I upload almost all of them because whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Flickr.
I got to do some uploading soon. I haven't uploaded in a long time.
I haven't uploaded everything up to the Australia trip I have uploaded.
I got to check out. I got a lot of old stuff that's unuploaded.
Yeah, I got a bunch of video and stuff that I haven't uploaded, but whatever.
Anyway.
We went to all the game stores.
Yeah, we checked out all the nerds in Australia.
The game store people are super chill. Like, we went to, what was the name of that place?
The main store we went to was Games Laboratory, which is funny because they were closed during PAX, and there were all these signs in the window like, closed, blame PAX. It was mostly a Magic the Gathering store, but they also had a board game selection and some board game events. And mostly the store was just tables. It was the exact opposite of a New York game store, which is mostly merchandise stacked to the ceiling and no tables. This place was like 90% tables with like a super good system of like showing you the tournament status on the monitor, these TVs, and and very little merchandise for sale except Magic cards. And the guy was actually giving, not only were they trying to sell this dude Magic cards when I was there, they're actually giving like deck advice. And it's like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. But yeah, I played a Netrunner tournament there after Rim left. It was a beginners tournament, so I came in third place because that's the only I can only come in third place. It was mostly beginners. And I actually lost to some beginners. It was great, whatever. But yeah, it was a good time. Lots of nice Australian Netrunner players. It was that was it.
Yeah, I have to say that the nerds we ran into were generally all super chill.
And everyone in Australia who's a nerd is basically super desperate because not enough nerdery. Like, we went to the Minotaur, which is sort of like the big fancy comic book store, the Midtown Comics, I would say, or the Newbury Comics of Melbourne. And everything there was way expensive. And yeah, everyone there was super desperate, willing to pay that much money.
But at the same time, that store, in terms of its breadth of geekery, was way more than an equivalent store in the U.S.
I don't know. It had about the same kind of stuff as a Forbidden Planet would have.
Yeah, Forbidden Planet, but that's kind of an exception. Look at, what is it, Newbury Comics?
It's about the same, yeah.
Newbury Comics does not have the breadth of this place.
I think they had the quantity of inventory, but I think it had about the same breadth.
Well,
I would say.
I think the breadth is wider because there were a lot of sections for things
the
like
anime was definitely heavier because anime is just big there.
Yep, there was a pony section. Like there was an area that was basically all pony stuff. There was an area that was basically all Adventure Time stuff. There's an area that was all horror movie stuff. There was an area that was like trauma-y kind of stuff separate from all of that.
Yep.
Like it was all nerd stuff together.
And everything was $1 zillion, so I didn't buy anything.
But they were Australian dollars, which they're worth about the same as American dollars. So yeah.
Yeah, no, and there was nothing I couldn't get because I live in fucking New York City and I have Amazon.com.
Yeah. I didn't.
And eBay.
That's why I didn't buy many souvenirs. Though I bought that cute little Melbourne Zoo bowl that has the cute little elephant on it.
I bought my mom a magnet because she likes refrigerator magnets.
Oh, yeah.
That's her thing. Whatever.
All right, I think we've talked enough about Australia.
I'm sure there are other things we could mention, but the show is long.
Those
and
anecdotes will come up bit by bit as things.
Any other anecdotes? I mean, we went to a jazz club, whatever. You know,
Yeah,
they're not
well-
so significant or interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there are things we do in New York anyway. Like in New York, we'll go to Williamsburg and go see a weird concert somewhere. In Melbourne, we went to Fitzroy, which is hipster town.
The Williamsburg of Melbourne.
Yes, everyone's riding fixies there. Like, if you dropped someone from Williamsburg,
The French
in the middle of
restaurant
that-
wouldn't give us a seat, even though it was mostly empty.
Yeah, either they had a big reservation or they thought we were poor.
Went to the Afghanistani restaurant. Pretty good.
Afghanistani?
Yep.
I would just say Afghani, maybe.
It went along with our Afghan exhibit that we did.
But yeah, Fitzroy, a lot of the things we did were really cool and all, but there's nothing particular to say because they're the same things we do in New York, just crooked slightly so.
We touristed. The end.
Yay!
Australia would go back, but expensive. So
Australia will go back if I have
Someone
an
pays
excuse to
for
go
it.
for work or our Kickstarter succeeds.
Both of those are if someone pays for
Yes.
it. That's not me.
We
I
will.
prioritize going to other places, not because Australia is bad, but because I haven't been to other places and I'd rather go to a new place.
So here's the thing. This is kind of a meta, and we'll end the show because, with PAX next week, I don't think we're going to do a lot of shows again.
Nope.
If I go back to Australia, I don't have a lot of interest in visiting cities again.
I definitely want to go to Outback, but
Because
mostly Coral Reef.
I travel a lot for work, and the more you visit big cities,
They're all the same.
there are big differences, but not enough to be worth traveling
I want to
just
see
for
old shit.
that. Yeah, well, there's not a lot of old stuff in Australia, except
That's all I got. Is the only things to see in Australia are natural shit.
if I go back to Australia for PAX
Coral
next
reefs
year,
and animals in the Outback.
after PAX, I'm going to go to Wilson's fucking promontory.
I was already there.
No, you weren't.
Oh, right, that thing. You wanted
Yeah,
to
that
go-
thing.
Yeah.
That thing. That was our meme.
We went to whatever. I don't know.
Well, Woolamai.
Yeah, Cape Woolamai.
Cape Woolamai.
Right.
No, and I'm going to go to Tasmania and New Zealand.
All right, I'm gonna go to the Coral Reef because fishes.
Yeah,
and
fishes.
Warm water on the
But
beach.
I have no desire to visit Canberra, and I actually don't really want to bother going
No
to
one
Sydney.
wants to visit Canberra.
Rather than going to Sydney, I
I'd
think...
go to Sydney like as a stop and go to an opera and then leave.
Yeah, something like that. I would not stay in Sydney for more than a couple days.
Yeah.
But what I really want to do is arrange ahead of time and do like a week-long trek through the Outback.
I don't know if I'm gonna go there for a week.
If I go back with Kickstarter, I'm going to spend the same amount of money I spent going on my own on extra.
Fine, I'm going to the Outback for like maybe a day just to see. Oh, I've seen the Outback, and then I'm gonna lay on the beach near the Coral Reef and also go in the Coral Reef for like a week.
I don't want to do too much laying on beach because I can do that in South America
Yeah.
much more easily.
That beach does not have a Coral Reef.
There's some beaches down there. that
Right,
have coral
imagine if
reefs.
you're like you're in Wildwood laying on the beach. Only it's warmer and nicer. And the people are more beautiful. And when you look at the water, it's blue and there's beautiful multicolored fishes and not this dark green nasty water.
Scott, I can go to Turks and Caicos and have that.
Turks and Caicos has like the super richest people on earth at it. You can't go there.
Yeah, it's pretty. You can go there as tourists pretty cheaply.
It's a lot of monies.
Cheaper than Australia.
Well, maybe because it's physically closer.
Or fine,
but
I'll go to the
staying
Bahamas.
There, yeah, Bahamas have other problems.
Yeah, all these places have problems.
Eh.
I'm just saying, I'm not that interested in doing beach time.
I'm super interested in all coral reefs
I want
everywhere.
to I want to hike out to fucking Ayers Rock and then wait and do crazy stuff out there. And I
I'd
want
like
go
to see
New
the
Zealand.
Ayers Rock, but only I want to see the coral reef.
I want to go to New Zealand and go skiing there.
You know any
And
other good coral reefs to check out?
The Great Barrier Reef, I
That's,
guess.
that's the one.
Yeah, I know.
Any other ones?
Not that I can think of that are bigger or better well known than the
Well,
Great Barrier Reef.
Well, then maybe I should go check that one out.
But you're not going to go scuba diving, so what's the fucking point?
Why wouldn't I?
I thought you were the one who was like, scuba, you just want to snorkel.
Snorkeling's good too.
If you're going to go to the Great Barrier Reef, you got to scuba dive.
I mean,
it.
it's not that deep. You can probably just see it from the edge.
Yeah, you can see more if you scuba dive.
Maybe.
Anyway. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night. Are available to purchase, but I don't.
No, I haven't tried it yet because I've been too busy since PAX. But I think you have to equip it outside of the game instead of your regular M4.
Oh, fuck that bullshit.
Yeah,
Fuck that.
I have not played Counter-Strike since they announced their crate bullshit.
I mean, it's one thing if I can press B and then choose between the two, and one costs more or something.
Well,
but
this is why I'm worried, because when
what if one round I want one and one round I want the other?
When Counter-Strike Go came out, it was great, and I had literally one complaint. And that one complaint was, how come my M4 and USP don't have silencers? And then when those were added through the Steam bullshit item bullshit, that's bullshit.
That's right. NS2.
Yeah, but I like NS2. I like Counter-Strike more. That's my game.
Well, that's a problem.
And I have to keep a close eye on this, because if this gets out of hand, one, I'm just going to have to sit down and edit my server such that it's the way I want it to be.
At least Dota only has, to its credit, only has
and only play there
shit.
and make using these items a bannable offense. But more importantly, might just have to go back to 1.6.
1.6.
At least 1.6
The game that
exists.
never dies. You know, 1.6 is kind of awesome in that, like, people don't play Quake 1 really, but you can go back and play 1.6, which is, you know, that's
I think it's partly because 1.6 was one of those games that still kind of worked on the internet.
Yep.
I mean, Quake 1, you got to know IP addresses.
Yeah.
Like, what's the IP address of this server you want to connect to?
Just to
and
wrap
play?
up this gaming news, I do want to say I'm thinking about trying the new EverQuest, only because it seems to be a combo MMO Minecraft, and just the idea of that seems cool, so I might go for the free trial on that.
I'm going to wait until you bite that bullet and
It's a
spend
free
the time.
trial. It's going to take me like an hour to figure out if it's worthwhile
Yeah,
or not.
but I mean,
and
I
most of that
spent-
hour will be spent downloading.
I spent money on Leviathan Warships because no one seemed to know if it was bullshit or not.
Glad I did not spend money on that.
Yep. That's a show we keep forgetting to do. We got to review Mario Tennis and all those 3DS games the way we want games reviewed.
Mario Tennis.
Because they're not... no one
Do you
reviews
have any
games.
news over there?
So I got it. It's Thursday. It's the lounge.
No, it's your
We
mom.
can talk about whatever we want. So one, we live in New York, if you can't tell
No.
from listening to Geeknights, and we have a big mayoral election coming up. So
Yeah, we can actually vote in an election that matters, where the votes are counted mostly honestly.
and the votes are close,
And it's not,
and because the Republicans just don't matter here, because they don't. The primaries are all that matter. So as a result, it's not like I have to choose between a Gennaro right-of-center Democrat and an ultra-right-wing or ultra-religious Republican. I get to choose between 2 or 3 Democrats, all of whom have slightly nuanced positions on things.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually kind of matters. So a lot of our listeners do live in New York, and if you're not paying attention to the local elections where you live, that's why your shit sucks.
that shit matters a lot.
A lot more to your day-to-day life than the presidential election.
My current city council person, Valoni, who is good and bad, right? He's responsible for the gentrification of my neighborhood, but also other things, which not so good. But anyway, he is trying to become the Queens borough president. So there's all these people like trying to run to like take his spot if he wins or whatever. So that kind of matters for me, at least.
Yeah. But pay attention, because Bloomberg is on his way out, and there's been the mayor's office of New York has been kind of funny lately because
I
of
should
this
just run
whole
for mayor.
racist stop and frisk thing. And basically, the New York mayor's office has been having hissy fits on Twitter. Like, the city council basically shut down their racist stop and search policy, where they'd go to neighborhoods and stop black people and see if they had guns. And they say that, yeah, we found a bunch of guns. We're stopping crime, even though the
You know what's
majority
gonna be
of
awesome?
the citations
Is
were
it
not
when
gun
the
citations.
when the statistics show crime going down after stopping this, right?
Yep. But the city council was like, all right, we passed some laws. You can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And the mayor was like, veto. And the city council was like, yeah, override your veto.
That's how democracy works.
Yes.
It works only in this tiny area.
But listen, this is New York. Do you know how many people live here and yet still are my individual piddly little vote actually statistically significant?
Yep, because
So,
not everyone votes.
What about all of you who live in, like, I don't know, Gary, Indiana? How many people vote?
There's not, in Gary, Indiana, I read a story.
Actually, there's been a bunch of stories about Gary,
it's
Indiana.
so poor,
lately.
they
Yes.
sold a bunch of houses for really
Yep.
$1. Just $1.
$1.
Ice cold, keep piece of shit house, $1.
Yeah, those houses were only available to people who lived there already in the
Oh.
area.
I would have bought all 12 for $12.
Make a minimum income of like $35,000 a year, and they have to live in the house for 5 years or they lose it.
Not doing it.
Yeah, no one's doing it. But Gary's been in the news a lot for a lot of reasons. But if you live in a place like that, how many people do you think vote for, like, the comptroller? Like, how many people do you think vote in that? They go to the... If anyone out there, if you take the sort of legal flow limiter out of your shower head, you're kind of a dick. Because I don't think you understand how much fucking water you waste if you take that out. But
Yeah, I used to take it out to increase the flow, but then I realized, like, oh, if you have a better shower head, you can leave it in and still get the flow.
Exactly. If you take it... Well, remember...
And then you won't waste water.
When we moved to Beacon, we were like, hey, let's take it out. And we took it out, and then we're like, oh, one shower empties the hot water heater. That's stupid. And we put the flow limiter back in. Because we were used to RIT, where the water pressure was just low, and that's when you're supposed to take it out, if the water pressure is low. If it's high, like in New York, imagine just turning on the faucet, just letting it go. Just bam. Open faucet. Blah. But what the fuck is up with anyone who has lived in a place for more than a month and has not replaced the default shower head with one that is on some sort of rope or chain mechanism?
Maybe they live in some sort of luxury place that has an awesome shower head. Or maybe
No,
they have one of
but
those
even-
high-end showers that just blast you from all sides and has, like, electronic settings.
Yeah, but
and-
seriously, how do you wash your asshole effectively if you don't have the kind you can pick up and hold down by your asshole?
Maybe they just bend over and show their asshole to the sky.
I mean, I understand. I think it's a health-related thing in hotels because people might put it in places they shouldn't put it. So I'm kind of okay with that. Though I note every country I travel to that isn't the U.S., it has the same kind of shower head I have.
Rim, think about this. Until those things weren't fucking invented until
Till when?
What
Till
year?
when? What year?
They didn't have those.
They had those my entire life.
Right, but I'm talking like in the 50s, you think they had those?
Probably.
I don't know. You ever see one in an old movie?
How often do you see the inside of a shower in an old movie?
Psycho?
Yeah, I was going to say, name another movie.
Psycho didn't have one.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you the
But I guess I just don't get humans who live in a place where they don't get a real shower head. It's like, dude, $20.
It is $20.
$20 for one that is 1,000 times better than what you've got.
7 modes.
Mine only has 3 modes and 2 heads. Now, if I turn on 2 heads at the same time, that's stupid. That's gonna waste so much water.
That is dumb.
But the way mine's set up, right? I have a head that's fixed up there that actually has a really good sort of angle mechanism, so I can get it like angled perfectly. And then I have the one I hold. I can switch between them. The way it's set up, the angle one that's fixed uses way little water, but it gives me this nice spray. So it's keeping me warm. It's doing the basic washing. But then I take the stick one and switch to that, and
clean your asshole?
it's basically super powerful asshole cleaner.
Sure.
But the key is it's super powerful, so it wastes water, but I only use it for like a minute in my entire shower. And the rest of the time I'm standing there with the normal one using way little water and not getting cold because I'm like soaping up my stuff. But yeah,
All right.
shower heads. We should do a whole show on shower heads.
Okay, so yeah, that's not a bad idea.
That's a pretty good show idea.
We've already done it. Though.
We've done, have we?
We just did it right now.
No, I got a lot more to say that I'm holding back.
Low flow, Jerry. Okay, so I got some news here. It's just a tiny gaming news, right? But there's the Elder Scrolls Online has been an MMO people are looking forward to, right?
Yep.
Maybe because, MMOs are waning, so and not too often a big one comes along. So, of course, one based on the Skyrims and the Oblivions and the Morrowinds is going to be pretty hot, right?
Yep.
So they decided to charge $15 a month, which is a lot, right? But people are crazy for this fucking thing, so they'll pay it.
Well, I
And
would
then
pay
they
$15 a month for Counter-Strike.
They know that this thing is going free to play eventually, so they're clearly going to milk everyone for what they're worth and then go free to play, right?
Yep.
But here's the real catch. Here's the real catch.
There's a catch.
They're going to put in the free to play buy stuff store to buy, in-game shit at the same time that it's still $15 a month. So you pay $15 a month and you pay to win. And then eventually when it's free to play, it'll just be pay to win.
All right.
Without the monthly fee.
Listen, assholes.
You're paying $15 a month to get nothing, and then you buy a sword in the store with real money again.
I understand why the industry is going in this direction, but I also hate it. I don't know what to do.
You won't catch me playing this.
Even Counter-Strike, right? My pure game. They added drops, and they added you can get an MP5 that's orange or a knife that looks different.
NS2, everybody.
But you know what they added? You know what two of the items are? The silenced M4.
Wait, you have to pay for that?
Well, everyone got it for free, but it's an item.
Okay.
An optional item.
So there are people who won't have it.
I don't know if anyone will not have it. Like, if I buy the game today, I wonder if I get it or not. And the silenced USP.
Does everyone have that?
Everyone who's currently playing.
Well, I mean,
has
you
it.
don't just have it. You have to buy it with in-game
but
Counter-Strike dollars, right?
Well, you get it for free, I guess, because it was like the first item. Like,
it's like you have it available to purchase. Like I have Kevlar.
It's Thursday, August 22nd, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, Australia, part 2.
It's not French.
Let's do this. I'm feeling a lot more energy now that we've been back from Australia for a while.
I'm feeling pretty good energy today because when I biked to work this morning in New York, the things we talk about biking in New York.
Yep.
It was gonna rain, and it only rained a block away from the office, and then I got in the office.
So
I barely got rained on, and then it was raining all day until I was leaving work. The sun came out. So
I know. I went to work, right?
Take that rain.
I was like, I should bike. Look how nice it is outside. But I had some other stuff I had to take care of, so I didn't want my bike at the office because I had to come back home anyway. So I didn't bike. And then I got to the office, and because of the timing, it would have rained on me had I biked at the time I would have left.
So on top of that, I'm waiting for my new shower head to come because my previous one broke.
You didn't buy a water pick, did you?
I bought the top-rated one on Amazon.
Okay. But was it a water pick? I'm really not feeling the water picks
Let me
lately.
see what it is.
Water picks are kind
It's
of
basically the same kind of thing we've always gotten.
Oh,
where
I know.
It's just,
but
it's a plastic shower head with you twist it in these modes.
But so what I did a lot of research into shower heads because I replaced my water pick with a different brand. A not as commonly known brand.
It's a Delta 75700 WH7 spray head.
I know that one. Because that one was actually one of the ones I looked at, because it is one of the top-rated Amazon ones.
It has 4.5 stars in Amazon after 491 reviews. That's a lot.
I looked at that one. I ended up getting this dual head one, but not...
I thought about getting one of those. They were way more money.
Yeah, so I got a dual head one that was only $60.
That's way more money. This one is only costing me... I forget. It doesn't have the price right now.
Yeah, you're going to feel really silly if you use my shower and realize
26.
How absolutely fantastic my shower head is.
I want to talk about not how fantastic good shower heads are, but how shitty. I reverted to the shower head that came with my apartment.
You want to get me started? I got something to say about that.
Because it's broken, I reverted to the shower head that came with my apartment. Low flow does not even begin. I would have more coming down on me if I went outside in a drizzle. It's like there's two lasers of water that are like sort of going, eh. It's like a baby is peeing on me, and that's it.
Now,
that's it.
Simultaneously,
how can I clean myself with that?